This is happiness, to be everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Mood Prep. My name is Dave Nixon, and today we are going to talk about life's fucking hard. Hey, like that's a key thing. Hey, life is hard. I mean, life's also what you make it and all that sort of stuff. But at the core of it, like, there is a lot of shit that happens that makes every single person's life challenging in so many different ways, and it really is unique to the individual. We can try and put things in perspective and go, well, people are starving in Africa. That's the thing that I remember hearing heaps growing up, and that may be true. That may not take away the feeling of loneliness that you may have, or anything along those lines. And so my conversation here today is to not necessarily try and grasp something that we are unable to grasp, but rather look at the current situation we are in and allow us to have practical ideas and practical strategies to be able to address that. I remember many years ago reading something that's sort of spoke about it. It just said like everything in life is hard. Choose your hard. And fuck, it stuck with me. And I shared this other message on Instagram the other day. It says life is hard for two reasons. One, because you're leaving your comfort zone, or two, because you're staying in it. Now, this is the idea of either short-term pain or long-term pain. Now, long-term pain is like a drip. You know it's there, it's kind of painful, but it doesn't matter too much. The problem is that the drip over the time fucking drains your life, right? But the thing that often stays, makes us stay in that sort of, let's call it a comfort zone, is that often what we perceive to be uncomfortable, which is often just it's actually like a beacon to what we need to move towards. Anything that we find uncomfortable is the beacon to continue to move towards. Often the fear within us that stops us from moving towards that is the fear of some form of death, right? But nothing actually dies, unless under extreme circumstances. Usually identities die, right? And in order for us to step into the next stage of our life, we actually have to let things die off. In order for death of our identity, or whatever it may be that we're holding on to, when we allow that to die off, then new things emerge, right? The new level of us, so to speak. Excuse me. So the thing there is that it's often a very short-term painful experience, yet it yields long-term freedom. And this is one of the biggest things I can encourage people is like, as fucking hard as it is, the things that are most painful, when we steer away from them, we're actually prolonging the pain. We're not avoiding it. Hey, we're prolonging it, because it's painful staying in our comfort zone when there's so much more out there for us that really we're aching for. And that's a variation for each person. It could be fucking owning a dog. It could be anything. It doesn't matter, because it's so individual based. What does matter is that we understand that there's parts of our awareness that are they're attempting to tell us things. And often we go, fuck, that's anxious. Fuck, I don't like that. It gives me an icky feeling. And we have to, over time, build this awareness. Well, we don't have to. It's your choice, really. But there's benefit to it, to build this awareness of like, is it giving me that icky feeling because I shouldn't move towards it and it's dangerous? Or is it giving me that icky feeling because it's my egoic structures fucking screaming? Because if I was to move towards that and move through it, my egoic structures would be fucking horseshit, and it would be bullshit, and that just wouldn't mean anything. Because more often than not, it's probably been a common theme recently, I suppose, if I look at it, the next stage of you is going to need a different version of you, right? And this isn't about becoming more. So many of my conversations is not about becoming more. The focus is on becoming less, right? Less concerned of people's opinions, right? Less judgmental of your own self, right? There's so many other variations of how much more we could become less to give us a newer version of ourselves, which actually isn't a new version of ourselves. It's shelling off the bullshit that we're carrying around with us. And that's the beauty of it, because when we choose to stay in our comfort zone, it's not that we're comfortable, it's that we're choosing to stay with the lies that comfort us. We're not living, right? There's some of you that maybe listen to this and may disagree with it, and there's some of you that are like, fuck. because there's something in mind that's coming to you as I'm talking, and it's that thing that you need to move towards, that difficult conversation that you need to have, right? And you can avoid it, but you're not actually avoiding it. You're prolonging it. It's going to come up at some point. So you got some decisions to make, to move towards it, to take action, to have urgency, right? Or to wait it out until somebody else comes to you and goes, well, this is the current situation, when you could have dealt with that dragon when it was a lizard. Life's fucking hard, guys. We know that. And the mythological understanding of Jesus. This is not. I'm not necessarily religious. It's just looking at a lot of the stories and the fables in the Bible are very useful. But the benefit of that story of him taking his crucifix is that it's suffering on the way to your suffering to freedom, right? So it's like he had to suffer towards his suffering, right? Up a hill. What do you know, right? To then die. There's a death. Mythological reference, to be resurrected and born again. Hey, and so this is not to play down to people, those of you that are religious, like you have your own meaning structures to all of that, and that's fine. I'm all with that. What I'm saying is that the story in that is saying that for us to move towards the things that feels like suffering for us allows us to move towards our freedom, right? Now, the suffering is an interesting word. It's really interesting, and I've talked to people about it, and I had a podcast on this with someone sometime when I used to do a lot more musings, and I completely disagree on their angle, but I also disagree on their angle from the point of going, everyone makes their own meaning structures around the word suffering. But at the core of it, when I was younger, I used to think suffering was what the weak did, right? Now I understand it's what the weak avoid, right? Move towards the suffering, but the suffering is different for every single person. It really is different for every single fucking person. And so for us, it's like sometimes the suffering is getting out of our head and getting into our body and just doing the work. It might be training, right? And do the suffering, right? Embrace the suck, the term is often used in the industry. And what that means is that's the work for some people, okay? For some other people, it's to be able to observe their emotions, right? It's actually to step away from the suffering on some level because they're expanding their awareness, right? But the key thing for all of us is that suffering isn't what the weak do. It's what the weak avoid. It's what they prolong, which is long-term suffering. We personally, individuals, can change that by moving towards short-term pain for long-term pleasure. Let me change that, right? Short-term fear for long-term freedom. The issue is that we're swapping that around, and we're sacrificing long-term freedom for short-term fears. What are we paying attention to? Tells us a lot about our life. Team, on that note, I'm done. I hope you found this podcast beneficial, and if you did, it would mean the world to me if you'd pass it on to someone else that you think would also find it beneficial. And if you haven't already, you should definitely jump on the Facebook community. Like I said, God damn it, every time. The MovePrep community on Facebook, but also consider coming to my seminar up in Sydney the 21st, 22nd. There's still early bird tickets for about $240, I think until this weekend. This weekend, you got to jump on. I'll put a link up on my Instagram tomorrow for it as well. Otherwise, just davenixon.com.au/seminars. You should totally come along if you're interested in finding out a lot more about the models that I use to teach people about emotional awareness and emotional intelligence. That way people can take control of where they're at and where they want to go and move towards it. But that's me for now. It is me for now. Until tomorrow, peace and pizza, kick today in the dick, and slay the dragon. I'll see you soon.
To be everything at once, be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.